artist imposes on his work. A part of the cause, yes, but not a cause. The model, too, is an indispensable instrument of the cause, but not a cause. To the sculptor, his model is as indispensable as his chisel or his file. His art can get nowhere without them, but this does not make them parts or causes of the art. The end the artist has in view, our friend says, the thing which induces him to set about a work of creation, is a cause. Even if we grant that it is only an accessory cause, not the effective cause. Accessory causes are infinite in number. What we are after is the general cause. In any event, that assertion on the part of Plato and Aristotle, that the universe in its entirety, the whole completed work of creation, is a cause, is not in keeping with their usual acuteness as thinkers. There is a very great difference between a creation and its cause. Now, you must either pronounce your verdict, or, the easier course in matters of this nature, declare your inability to arrive at one, and order a rehearing. What pleasure, you may say, do you get out of frittering time away discussing those questions? It's not as if you could say they rid you of any emotion or drive out any desire. Well, in raising and arguing these less deserving topics, my own attitude is that they serve to calm the spirit, and that whilst I examine myself first, certainly, I examine the universe around me afterwards. I'm not even wasting time, as you suppose, at the moment, for those questions, provided they are not subjected to a mincing or dissection, with the useless kind of over-subtlety we have just seen as a result, all elevate and lighten the spirit, the soul, which yearns to win free of the heavy load it is saddled with here, and return to the world where it once belonged. For to it, this body of ours is a burden and a torment. And harassed by the body's overwhelming weight, the soul is in captivity unless philosophy comes to its rescue, bidding it breathe more freely in the contemplation of nature, releasing it from earthly into heavenly surroundings. This to the soul means freedom, the ability to wander far and free. It steals away for a while from the prison in which it is confined, and has its strength renewed in the world above. When craftsmen engaged on some intricate piece of work, which imposes a tiring strain on the eyes, have to work by an inadequate and undependable light, they go out into the open air and treat their eyes to the free sunshine in some open space or other dedicated to public recreation. In the same way, the soul, shut away in this dim and dismal dwelling, as often as it can, makes for the open and finds its relaxation in contemplating the natural universe. The wise man and devotee of philosophy is, needless to say, inseparable from his body, and yet he is detached from it, so far as the best part of his personality is concerned, directing his thoughts towards things far above. He looks on this present life of his, much like the man who has signed on as a soldier, as the term he has to serve out. And he is so made that he neither loves life nor hates it. He endures the lot of mortality, even though he knows there is a finer one in store for him. Are you telling me not to investigate the natural world? Are you trying to bar me from the whole of it and restrict me to a part of it? Am I not to inquire how everything in the universe began, who gave things form, who separated them out, when they were all plunged together in a single great conglomeration of inert matter? Am I not to inquire into the identity of the artist who created that universe, or the process by which this huge mass became subject to law and order, or the nature of the one who collected the things that were scattered apart, sorted apart the things that were commingled, and when all things lay in formless chaos, allotted them their individual shapes? Or the source of the light, is it fire, or is it something brighter that is shed on us in such abundance? Am I supposed not to inquire into this sort of thing? Am I not to know where I am descended from, whether I am to see this world only once, or be born into it again time after time, what my destination is to be after I stay here, what abode will await my soul on its release from the terms of its serfdom on earth? Are you forbidding me to associate with heaven, in other words, ordering me to go through life with my eyes bent on the ground? I am too great, was born to too great a destiny to be my body's slave. So far as I'm concerned, that body is nothing more or less than a fetter on my freedom. I place it squarely in the path of fortune, letting her expend her onslaught on it, not allowing any blow to get through it to my actual self. For that body is all that is vulnerable about me. Within this dwelling, so liable to injury, there lives a spirit that is free. Never shall that flesh compel me to feel fear. Never shall it drive me to any pretense unworthy of a good man. Never shall I tell a lie out of consideration for this petty body. I shall dissolve our partnership when this seems the proper course. And even now, while we are bound one to the other, the partnership will not be on equal terms. The soul will assume undivided authority. Refusal to be influenced by one's body assures one's freedom. And to this freedom, to get back to the subject, even the kind of inquiries we were talking about just now have a considerable contribution to make. We know that everything in the universe is composed of matter and of God. God, encompassed within them, controls them all, they following his leadership and guidance. Greater power and greater value reside in that which creates, in this case God, than in the matter on which God works. Well, the place which in this universe is occupied by God is in man, the place of the spirit. What matter is in the universe, the body is in us. Let the worse then serve the better. Let us meet with bravery, whatever may befall us. Let us never feel a shudder at the thought of being wounded, or of being made a prisoner, or of poverty or persecution. What is death? Either a transition or an end. I am not afraid of coming to an end, this being the same as never having begun, nor a transition, for I shall never be in confinement quite so cramped anywhere else as I am here. Letter number 77. Today we saw some boats from Alexandria, the ones they call the mail packets, come into view all of a sudden. They were the ones which are normally sent ahead to announce the coming of the fleet that will arrive behind them. The sight of them is always a welcome one to the companions. The whole of Puteoli crowded onto the wharves, all picking out the Alexandrian vessels from an immense crowd of other shipping by the actual trim of their sails, these boats being the only vessels allowed to keep their topsails spread. Out at sea, all ships carry these sails, for nothing makes quite the same contribution to speed as the upper canvas, the area from which a boat derives the greatest part of its propulsion. That is why whenever the wind stiffens and becomes unduly strong, sail is shortened, the wind having less force lower down. On entering the channel between Capri and the headland from which, upon the storm-swept summit, Pallas keeps a high lookout, regulations require all other vessels to confine themselves to carrying a mainsail, and the topsail is accordingly conspicuous on the Alexandrian boats. While everyone around me was hurrying thus from all directions to the waterfront, I found a great deal of pleasure in refusing to bestir myself. Although there would be letters for me from my people over there, I was in no hurry to know what reports they might be carrying or what might be the state of my financial interests there. For a long time now, I have not been concerned about any profit or loss. This particular pleasure was one that I ought to have been experiencing, even if I were not an old man. But being old, in fact, made it all the greater, for it meant that however little money I might have, I should still have more left to cover the journey than distance left to be covered, especially as the journey on which we have all set out is one which does not have to be travelled to the very end. An ordinary journey will be incomplete if you come to a stop in the middle of it, or anywhere short of your destination. But life is never incomplete if it is an honourable one. At whatever point you leave life, if you leave it in the right way, it is a whole. And there are many occasions on which a man should leave life not only bravely, but for reasons which are not as pressing as they might be. The reasons which restrain us being not so pressing either. Tullius Marcellinus, whom you knew very well, a man old before his years, who found tranquility early in life, began to meditate suicide after he had gone down with a disease which was not an incurable one, but at the same time was a protracted, troublesome one, importunate in its demands. He called together a large number of his friends, and each one offered him advice. This consisted either of urgings from the timid among them that he should just take whichever course he himself felt urged to take, or of whatever counsel flattering admirers thought would be the most likely to gratify someone meditating suicide, until a Stoic friend of mine, an outstanding personality, for whom I can find no more fitting compliment than that of calling him a man of fighting courage, gave what I thought was the most inspiring advice. And this was how he began. "My dear Marcellinus," he said, "you mustn't let this worry you, as if you were having to make a great decision. There's nothing so very great about living. All your slaves and all the animals do it. What is, however, a great thing is to die in a manner which is honorable, enlightened,